Clearly, it's not leading, it's more a US story, but the uptrend is still intact.
So Bruno, starting off last week, you were confident on the S&P rising. Now, is it not overbought?
Well, good morning, Jessica. Let's look at the S&P charts. We have here a very nice rise yesterday. It's reaching 26.27, almost the target, 26.29, and it is well above the upper Bollinger Band, which is around 26.13. We look at the past. In the past, we had also in October sometimes a rise above that Bollinger Bands, which was rising, and then it went a bit more sideways. So there is some risk, in fact, to go sideways as it is a little bit overbought.
And what is behind this strong rise that we have seen?
That's something that we should look at. First, we should look at discretionary sectors of the US market. And discretionary represent more the cyclical sectors. Of course, a very strong rise, and we see the relative strength versus the S&P is rising. When we compare that to a defensive sector, for example, staples, we have, on the contrary, a very flat relative strength line on versus the S&P 500, even though indeed yesterday it was a move up as all boats were lifted up by the sea rising. Now let's look at the way behave the ratio of these two sectors. And that's our black line. And we notice that when the black line is rising, usually the S&P is making higher highs. And that's exactly what's happening right now with the rebound of this black line. So it's probably a little bit overbought, but it's just confirming the uptrend.
And what about the technology sector? What's been happening there?
The technology sector is still in an uptrend. And as we noticed, it is still above its support trend line, but the rise is a little bit more orderly, if you would like to say. It's close to the upper Bollinger Bands. And in fact, yesterday, that's not the best outperforming sectors, but clearly it's a leading sectors.
And in your opinion, is the tax cuts, is it still helping the small caps?
If you look at small cap and mid cap, in fact, they are making higher highs, and that's reflecting really this hope for a tax cut that we hear about yesterday in the news. The very good thing is that now the former resistances on the small cap and on the mid cap are considered as support. And as long as we are above it, we basically have a bull market, and that means that everybody is participating, not only the large cap. So that's bullish.
And we've seen that the rise has mostly been in the US. So what about emerging markets?
Well, first, China that we noticed last week with a huge gap up, which seemed above the Bollinger Bands a little bit too much. And we said that it could be filled, the gap could be filled. That's exactly what happened during the short week of Thanksgiving. We see the move back down, and yesterday a reasonable rebound. Clearly it's not leading, it's more a US story, but the uptrend is still intact.
And are Europe and Japan still lagging behind the US also?
Well, that's the bad news, if you wish. Indeed, if we look at Europe, the relative strength is making lower lows. That means that the rebound is very modest. And in addition, compared to the down move here, the rebound, which is making kind of a bear flag, in fact has more bearish connotation, implying that there is some risk to break this 35.50 level someday, as long as we are capped by the 36.15 resistance area. And if we look at Japan, it's looking a little bit more positive. It is a small sideways trading range. Relative strength, however, is still pausing or even declining a little bit, and that might go on as long as the yen is rising. If the yen would be breaking its uptrend line, maybe the Nikkei could rebound a little bit more.
And finally, Bruno, is there anything that investors should keep in mind as a potential risk?
Well, there is one market which is not really doing what it should do. This is the gold market. If the S&P is rising, gold, which is a safe asset, should be declining. And it's not doing that, really. It's still within a small trading range, but trying to test the resistance around 1300. It should be more below 1280. That's a kind of a divergence, which could be a warning signal. So we should keep that in mind until Christmas.
Fantastic. Well, Bruno, thank you once again for coming in and sharing your insights.
You are very welcome.
Well, that's all for myself and Bruno, but we want to hear how you found this interview, so please do like and comment on dukascopy.tv.